Okay, so now we're going to start the rebuild of the 515 Husky diaphragm pump, and we're going to start with the center section. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the diaphragm shaft U-cups in. We got a little bit of lithium-based grease on the U-cups. We're going to set them down inside with the sealing lips or edges of that U-cup facing outward. Okay, once that's done, then we'll go ahead and put the O-ring around the pin for the air valve. Then we'll take our gasket and we'll just line the gasket up. Then we'll take the first air cover and we'll line that up. You just want to make sure that everything is lined up and sitting in position properly. And once that's done, then we're just going to come through and we're going to reinstall our 6 screws. All right, now we have the 6 screws installed, and I'm just going to come back and we're going to torque those screws down 35 to 45 inch-pounds. And we're just going to want to work in even pattern across. Okay, once that's done, we're just going to go ahead and flip the whole mechanism over. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and repeat the process for side number 2. We're going to come in with our diaphragm shaft U-cup, once again making sure that the sealing surfaces are facing outward. And we have our O-ring for the pilot valve. We're going to come in and reinstall our manifold for the muffler. We have a small tab on one side that's going to help us line it up and get it in position correctly. If you have trouble with the O-ring staying in position, you can put a little grease on there just to hold it in place. Once that's in position, we're going to bring in the gasket. We want to make sure that you line up the gasket so it fits properly, and then we'll bring in the other plate and set that in position. Make sure everything's setted properly and go back to our 6 screws again. Once all the 6 screws are in, we're just going to come back once again and torque these screws 35 to 45 inch-pounds. Now our center section is complete and we can go ahead and start the process of reinstalling our diaphragms. So we're going to start by taking the nut for the first diaphragm and we'll install it on the diaphragm. And we'll put our backer on, and again, if this is an overmold diaphragm, it'll be a single piece design. We'll put our strike plate on, making note that it is marked which side goes towards the air. At this point, what we're going to want to do is we're going to take a little bit of a blue thread lock, and that's a medium strength. Put a little bit on the threads. We're just going to go ahead and screw it onto the diaphragm shaft. Okay, we'll come back in a little bit and we'll torque that. Again, if this is an overmold, then we're just going to go ahead and leave that hand tight. All right, once that's assembled, we're just going to take a little bit of lithium-based grease again, and we'll put some grease on the shaft, and we'll go ahead and insert it into the center section of the diaphragm. And then we're just going to go ahead and bring in our second diaphragm. This one's already pre-assembled. Put a little bit of that medium strength thread sealer, and then we'll just go ahead and get it started. All right, so now we have both diaphragms installed, and then we're going to want to torque it. And I'm just going to take a quick look in the manual here to make sure that I have the right torque spec. And this one needs to be 80 to 90 inch-pounds. Just remind everyone once again, if this is an overmold diaphragm, then you're just going to by hand tighten it and then let the thread sealer cure. Okay, next procedure is to go ahead and put the fluid covers on. We're going to want to position the center section so that the air valve is towards the top and then the exhaust is off on the bottom side. The bolts are pinned in a pattern, so you can't really get the fluid covers off by too far. You could put it off 180 degrees, but that would be it. So just make sure your air valve is positioned up, and then just slide the fluid cover right on over. And I'm just going to go ahead and set it on the side. and we'll go ahead and put some nuts on to hold it in place, and then we'll come back and we'll put the other side in as well. Okay, so I've got these nuts just snugged down in place for now. We're going to come back and torque them in a minute, but I want to go ahead and get my other fluid cover installed before I do that. So once again, just put it in position. Make sure that the up is towards the up side of the other one with the air valve in the up position. Okay, so now I've got all the nuts on both the fluid covers in place and snugged down. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to torque these down to the right torque spec. You can use your manual, or you can reference on the outlet of the pump manifold. There's going to be a hang tag, and that hang tag is going to go ahead and give you what the torque spec is, and it's also going to tell you what the sequence is. And if you'll notice over on the one side here, it's going to give you the sequence of the top left and then work its way to the opposite corner. And then come up to the top and back down to the bottom. So you just want to go ahead and follow that sequence, and it looks like this one is going to be 80 to 90 inch-pounds. So let's go ahead and secure all these. Okay, that side's done, then we're just going to go ahead and repeat the procedure for the other side. All right, so we have both fluid covers put on now, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start putting the inlet and the outlet manifolds on. I'm just going to flip the pump upside down, and we're going to go ahead and start with the inlet manifold. Okay, keeping in mind that the pump is upside down, we're going to start with our 2 O-rings. Then we're going to put in the tops of the cage, noting that there is a beveled side, and you want that side to go down towards the O-ring. And we're going to have our balls in our cages. Then we're just going to finish it off with the 2 O-rings, the bottom O-rings. All right, once everything's in position, then we can go ahead and come back with our fluid manifold, the inlet manifold. Keep in mind that this manifold can go on in either direction. So as you're putting that on, or as you took it apart, you might want to mark it to make sure that you get it in the right position for the application. All right, once the manifold's in place, we'll just come through and we'll secure it with our four nuts. And then once again, I'm just going to snug these down, and then we're going to come back and torque them to the right spec. And I'll call attention once again to the hang tag for both the inlet and the outlet manifold. There is a sequence and a torque spec. And once again, we're looking at that 80 to 90 inch-pounds. Okay, and now we'll go ahead and turn the pump so it's right side up, and we'll build up the outlet manifold. And we're going to start by installing the 2 seals, or O-rings. And then this time we're going to lead with the cages. We'll drop our balls into position. The 2 covers, this time with the beveled edges going up. That way the O-ring will fit around there nicely. And then we'll come in with our top manifold, and once again the manifold can go on in either direction depending on the application. And we'll drop that in place, and we'll secure with the remaining 4 nuts, and we'll torque those down to the correct spec as well. And the torque spec on this is going to be once again 80 to 90 inch-pounds, and you can either refer to the hang tag on the manifold of the pump or refer back to your manual to make sure that the torque spec is correct. That's going to complete the rebuild of the Husky 515.